We are required by law to balance the budget of our preliminary budget for this fiscal year and the next one. And we've showcased that in order to do so, what the path that we want to pursue is working with Albany to raise taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers, the most profitable corporations, by that little bit more, while ending the drain that has characterized the relationship between the city and the state, so that we can balance that budget.
Guys, thank you so much for joining me. John Soto, this is SotoCast. Mamdani, he is spinning and spinning and spinning. We're going to listen to a little bit more of him here, and they're going to dissect it, and then we're going to dissect it. Take a listen to what this guy is talking about.
Has characterized the relationship between the city and the state, so that we can balance that budget. If we do not have that state action, then the only tools that the city has at its disposal is a property tax increase. That is not a pursuit that we want to follow through on.
So essentially what he's saying there is that New York City, the only thing he can do as a mayor to increase revenues is to increase property taxes. That's the only authority that he has in order to that's the only lever he has to get more income coming in. And in the short term, that probably would work. In the long term, obviously, it wouldn't work, because especially with the amount he's espousing that he needs to. So there's a couple of things. They may get into it here, but I like to get into it. So he's saying that there's a shortfall. He's saying initially he was saying 12 billion. Now he's saying 7 billion. What he's not telling you, or what he's not saying, is that the budget, because they have to balance the budget, was already balanced. The shortfall that he's claiming that was left by the predecessor is a shortfall that he's bringing about because of the stuff that he wants to implement. Right? So there's a very big distinction here. The prior administration left a balanced budget. He wants to add all this stuff and is saying that I don't have enough money, and the budget isn't balanced. The budget isn't balanced because of all the stuff you added. That's number one. And what he's doing here is he's trying to strong arm Albany by saying, I'm going to have to raise property taxes 10% to do all the little goodies that I want to do. And Hochul is an election year. You don't want me to do that, because then that's going to look bad on you, because now you're going to have this massive tax increase, and you're saying you don't want to increase taxes. So he's saying, rather than do that, give me my 1%, 2% here that I'm asking for you on the side here, that I don't have to, drop a nuke on New York City with these property tax increases. So he's playing a game of chicken here with Hochul. Hochul kind of has to play ball right now because she's in election year, so she has to kind of balance this going back and forth. She needs his support, obviously, and he knows that. But at the same time, she can't turn around and say, I'm going to increase property taxes and, shoot herself in the foot. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see where this goes. He already has stated that essentially what he's doing with the NYPD is he's going to, they say, a decrease of 5,000 officers. What that means is that the NYPD, I think, was setting at 35,000, not officers. There's a lot of other people that are in the mix there. But basically, the NYPD has 35,000 employees. And over the next years, that was going to increase to 40,000. They were going to do a slow increase of, I think, 300, 400, 300, 1,200. They were going to increase the class sizes, in order to amass 5,000 total more employees overall. Obviously, you have to account for retirees and stuff like that. So he's going to do away with that. He's going to keep the baseline as where it is now. So they're still going to be hiring officers, but they're not going to increase the overall amount of manpower. One way, or like, if you disagree or agree with that, whatever, that's his agenda. That's what he wanted to do. If people can debate that on their own, but these are the things that he's trying to do in order to give all the things, or try to give at least some of the things that he was espousing on the campaign.
New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is now locked in a standoff with Governor Kathy Hochul over raising taxes on businesses and top earners to fund his freebie agenda.
Yeah, well, guess what? Freedom isn't free. The Big Apple is facing a massive $12 billion budget gap for fiscal year 2026 and 2027 to fund Zohran's wish list. But our next guest says the mayor could try a different approach, a very foreign concept to him: cut the radical, ridiculous spending.
For more, let's bring in New York City Councilwoman Vicky Palladino. We are so glad to have you with us today. The property tax thing got everybody's attention, right? You knew the guy was going to go after the rich, okay? Right. But then he says, no, I've got this kind of hostage situation. Yeah, you give me this, or it's property taxes. How are people, like the council members in New York City, people in New York City, feeling about that threat?
Well, I think they made it pretty obvious yesterday when Julie Menon stepped out of her box a little bit, and she got very firm. We got 51 council members, and I don't think we're going to stomach this too much longer. You're talking about us losing our entire tax base. He cannot raise this 9.5%. What is he thinking? It's unrealistic. And we have a battle right now between the socialist agenda, which he campaigned on. This is no surprise. You use the word hostage. How right you are.
Just as a side note, Mamdani takes a lot of points from Trump. I don't know if you guys can see this. I don't know if you guys could see through the not liking of this man to kind of see that he's very Trumpy in what he's doing, right? He's not that Trump speaks very well, but his presence is good. He hits all the right points on social media and stuff like that. He really knows how to gather and pool his base. One of the things I'm wondering here is if this is not another playbook, Trump-esque style playbook, where you essentially you just say the most. I mean, a 10% increase in property taxes is wild. I mean, you got that's a crazy number to throw out there. But is he doing that to basically, does he have an end game? I'm sure he does. Does he have an end number in mind? Like let's say Hochul comes back and she says, listen, we can't do the 2% on billionaires. Maybe we could do 1%. All right, I'll take the 1% there and no longer 10%. You know what? I'll do a 2% increase on property tax or something to that effect. It just seems to me like he threw that number out there knowing this was going to be an outrageous thing. And then when he whittles that down to something very minor, then it's going to seem, so it's not that bad, right? It's just one of those things where, that's how you sneak this stuff in is you outrage and then you somewhat compromise, even though that compromise was never in the discussion to begin with. There was never a discussion of increased property tax to begin with. But now he gets that in by just inflating this number so large.
Because that's exactly what's happening right now. You do this or this is going to happen. You're going to hold us, the middle class folks that he claimed that he was in all support of for all the people, and yet he's going to hold us hostage. That's not how this game is played, Zohran, okay? And why don't you start digging into the $20 billion of our $116 billion citywide budget, which goes to non-for-profits? Cut spending. Let's dig a little bit.
So glad
Why don't we talk about
fraud?
fraud?
I'm so glad you brought that up
Kennedy?
because we did a little family project where
Did you?
we put this into AI and we asked AI, where could New York City
There you go.
cut spending?
Exactly.
And it turns out there are so many
much.
areas.
Oh, man, yeah.
You've got retired city workers who get lifetime pensions.
Right.
They could be on Medicare.
Right.
You've got New York City workers, all public workers, 100% of their insurance and their family's insurance is paid. That doesn't happen in the private sector. You have to pay at least 10, 20, 30%.
Right.
That would be a massive multi-billion-dollar shift.
Yep.
You could tackle some of the overtime costs. How do you see some of this cutting taking place? It doesn't seem to be that difficult.
Well, you can't go into our rainy day fund. He's and hitting our retarees. These retirees paid in for 30 years. He's talking about hitting that for $920
They've been in
million.
litigation for years.
Yes, exactly. They have been. But we got to go back to brass tacks. Brass tacks is get right to the line by line item. Go into those. I'm telling you, go into these non-for-profits. Just recently as last week, I'm in District 19 in Queens. In District 23, which is my neighbor, they just found $120 million in fraud through their senior centers. That's only this big in my area of Queens. If they were to tackle New York City on a whole, okay, and you take 20% out of our budget that goes to these non-for-profits, where is the money going?
We need a couple of Nick Shirleys out there running around New York City. It's not going to be that hard to do. It's not going to be that hard to do, guys. I'm telling you. If we get a couple guys with some video cameras right now, a lot of this stuff is publicly available. Like where, it would be a similar thing. It would be a nursing home scandal. It would be the transportation scandal. Transportation is huge in New York City. I mean, you're talking about. I don't know what the amount is, but it is a ton of money, right? Because you have people that are on Medicaid, Medicare, that are going to appointments. The city cuts a check to a lot of these transportation companies to get these people to and from, and a lot of that stuff's not happening, right? The money is going all over the place. Nobody knows what's going on. All these medical places that are getting paid out for therapies, for physical therapy, and they probably just checking people off as they go or don't even come in there. When it comes to home health aides, all this money that's going out the door for people that probably aren't even showing up, or maybe they're watching 3 or 4 people when it's only supposed to be watching one person. The amount of fraud has to be staggering in a city of 8.5 million people. Go through that. We need to, I know that Minnesota might be a little bit easier because it's a lot more sparse, but there's going to be buildings in the city that are going to be complete fraudulent centers. So let's see if some people can start doing that.
Right.
So he's going to go to Hochul for money? And as a New Yorker, can we trust them with this tax money? I mean, no, we cannot.
Well, Minnesota,
we've proven that.
Yeah, Minnesota, California kind of show you the way.
That's
go
correct.
look for this
100%.
stuff. Before you leave, I got to ask you about this. NYU Langone is
Yes.
ending transgender care for minors. Is this a situation where they kind of figured out we are on the wrong side of this issue, like ethically, or are they responding to pressure from the Trump administration, which is saying you guys can't be doing this? How do you read what's happening?
I'd like to think it was the latter. Okay, the first thing you said,
Yeah,
that they came to some sort of common sense. Let me make something very clear to you. This has been their agenda, transgendering these young kids and doing what's wrong, this nightmare that they've created. I'd like to think they'd want to do that, but no, they've made it their core issue. Trump cutting the funding, 100% has.
Guys, if you're still here, please subscribe to the channel. That's all I ask. Just hit the subscribe button. I think on this particular issue, I think they see the writing on the wall. I think that with the lawsuits that are coming out, there's going to be a massive, massive amount of lawsuits coming down in the years to come. They see it. They see that it's happening. They're trying to shift course as rapidly as they can because they're going to try to mitigate what they're about to be facing. There's going to be a tidal wave of these children in the next 5 to 10 years that are going to be detransitioning, that are going to be suing these locations, that are going to be, it's going to be an absolute nightmare for a lot of these institutions. And like I said, I think they see the writing on the wall and they're trying to hedge their bets right now.
Has something to do with it. You know, I was on the mental health committee when I first got started. I got thrown off of the mental health committee because I have been screaming about transgender, what they're doing to our kids, and how this is absolutely like demonic. And I'm happy about it. We all are happy about it. How long will it last? We'll have to wait and see.
Well, that's the question, and we will watch that very carefully.
Yep.
Vicky Powell.
Yeah, I think that chapter, thankfully, is pretty much over when it comes to this particular issue. When it comes to the transitioning of children, I think that they got word that this was not going to end well for them. This was a losing battle. There were way too many things going on behind the scenes, and that big lawsuit just happened. I don't know how many million that detransitioner won, but basically saying that, I'm not sure if it was he to she or she to he, but say that that they were pressured in. They thought one way, and all the medical professionals just said, yeah, let's go do this. And you have a girl that they cut her boobs off, and they start all these hormones, and you no matter what anyone says, you can't recover from that stuff. That's not something that it's not totally reversible. No matter what anyone tells you, it's not. So it's a life-altering thing that you just did to a child, and the adults in the room are the ones that should be held liable and responsible for that. Guys, thank you much for joining me. John Soto, 628 Talk. If you want to follow me in the X, please hit that subscribe button. I am John Soto. See you in the next video, guys. Take care.